Well, in the very earliest stages of lockdown, the director Charlotte Conquest, who's done a lot of stuff for Guildford Shakespeare, had been putting together some Shakespeare scenes remotely. And she thought some of the Guildford Shakespeare shows would be perfect for this kind of new enterprise. But the one she thought would work best would be The Merry Wives of Windsor that I had done for the summer show in 2019. So we decided to embark on this crazy project. All the actors filming themselves on their own mobile phone device, in their own homes, creating their own sets, sometimes helping with their own costumes, all their own props.
How now, good woman? How does pretty Mistress Anne?
And filming their scenes to camera, completely in isolation. And that's where it all began, really. The start of the process involved us meeting with the actors.
Parts of the rehearsal, guys, for those that aren't here, and also for you guys to reference back anything we talk about if you forget it, and you can come back to it.
Firstly, to look at their houses and see what would work in terms of set and what we could adapt, what corner of their kitchen might work, for example, or what gardens, a lot of exterior shots in Merry Wives, so what their gardens looked like. And there was all sorts of problems, people having communal gardens.
Just another mistress forward running with a letter option. I think my neighbours think I'm weird. And... okay.
People having no gardens, people having gardens that are right on a main road, etc., etc. And all these elements had to be taken into account. And from those conversations, we then put our heads together and created the best settings, if you like. So, if it was taking place in a garden, which bit of bush to stand in front of for Chris, for example, because that looked most like the bit of bush that Matt had in his garden.
So a 3-shot, slender page.
So theoretically, they could be in the same space together. And where that wasn't possible, we then introduced some elements of green screen, which is a wonderful, magical thing, but brings its own host of problems because obviously we didn't have any lighting other than the lamps that people had available in their own houses, and no sound setup, so other than the mobile phone. So obviously sound and light are a huge consideration, well, in any of this, but especially when you're doing interior green screen shots. Then came the next challenge, which was finding the backgrounds to put onto the green screens. This show was done entirely on no budget. Well, there was a postal budget for the boxes. The boxes of props and costumes that were sent. The amazing Beth, company stage manager, and Annette, the wardrobe manager, put those together for us very minimally because obviously we couldn't send many props because they'd be heavy. And some of the costumes could be used from the original production, but obviously some of those had been hired in, so were no longer available to us. And those boxes got sent off all across the UK, to the Highlands of Scotland, to Devon, to varying parts of London, Surrey, etc. But in essence, there was pretty much no budget at all. So we had to create everything from scratch. So where I am now is my kitchen at home, and ignore the children's scrolls on the walls. But that sofa features as I had to improvise and create a 70s background.
Caroline took some footage of it, sent it over to me. I then photoshopped it into just a green screen scenario, and then I started to sort of put it into the edit.
So in the edit, you've got all these layers of clips that you can stack one on top of the other, which helps to be able to see what you're actually creating when you start painting the picture. Then it's just a case of enabling all the clips ready to put the picture together. So I started with this arch that I'd already created because that took a bit of time. Then I add the kitchen high resolution picture that I've got here that I've just sourced. Next I add the parquet floor, then some nice 70s wallpaper, add a picture to go on the wall, and finally I add in Caroline's couch that I've already photoshopped. So now it's a case of adding the actors. They've already filmed themselves on green screen separately, and then I add first Sarah, then Emma, and then I'm able to enable the green screen clips so that the green screen disappears, and then what is left is the backdrop that you can see here.
Talks of the basket too, howsoever he hath had intelligence. We'll try that.
And then obviously when you go into a different angle, like this one of Sarah's, you need to change the perspective entirely. So it was always very challenging. In many scenes there are many joins in the edit. We're not using green screen, like here where Slender and Parson Hugh, they filmed separately from their gardens, and you're left in no doubt that they're filming remotely.
God bless this house here.
I think there's something really charming about that. We're deliberately not hiding the dividing line. So when we come to the 3-shot, I've got Slender in the frame first, and then I'll add in the next actor. Here it is Parson Hugh, followed by Mr. Page. And then just at the end, as you can see, I just add in a bit of sky. That's actually taken from the original footage from Slender's footage.
He hath wronged me, Master Page.
And then they're all three together.
Abraham Slender, Esquire, saith he is wronged.
I cannot tell you the level of creativity, ingenuity, hard work, patience, blue sky thinking, and cooperation, actually, including partners at home.
Do one last one right in the face at yourself.
I do that. I've been trying to do that. I'm getting quite bruised.
Bottle it. One more.
Partners holding phones, partners helping with bits of props, etc. It's been
Again?
a real challenge for people.
Oh, wait, sorry. Can it come in just a little bit higher?
And a head wreck, really, in terms of
No, it's good. We're starting.
where you actually are meant to even be in the scene. So a big part of the process was creating the maps, and these were the guidelines that the actors would use to give themselves a sense of where they were in the space, because obviously they were in isolation and often not in a proper set, but their own kitchen, trying to reimagine it as somebody else's kitchen. So we'd create these maps, we'd have these Zoom rehearsals
Episode 2,
where I would hold up the maps.
section I and J. Okay, so we have positioned
So
here.
this is just a suggestion
Yeah.
that that's Caius, that's the way to Windsor, and so host and Page are approaching from Windsor.
And each actor had to kind of navigate for themselves, really, in relation to these maps. So thank goodness for WhatsApp. We had a WhatsApp group that all the maps went onto, so everyone could relate to the maps after the rehearsals and remind themselves of where they were meant to be.
You know, it's actually sometimes very challenging speaking to people over Zoom, trying to explain exactly what you needed from any given moment. And Caroline and I had quite a job just communicating it between ourselves, what we required, let alone then sharing that with the actors. Because usually if you're in a room together, it's so much easier. You can sort of get people up on their feet and have a look at everything in a very kind of live, three-dimensional way.
So the Zoom meetings became really critical as a part of our process in preparation for the actors filming.
And so I'm going to try and match a background in Stoke Park to the picture that Caroline has WhatsApped me of Gunnersbury Park. So hopefully you can get like a shot of PJ and I walking up together. I'm also going to get the same shot but upside down. No, you can flip it. You can flip
I
it.
can flip
One that's in the grass.
Nice.
So from the thing, okay?
Yes,
so I'll get those
exactly.
two walking up. Okay, cool.
Get those two, and then you arrive, and then the text starts.
Right.
I would sometimes shoot little videos as examples of what we're trying to talk about, what we're trying to explain in a scene, so moments to try and work for. This was particularly for the end when it all goes crazy in the woods. Video 1, this is my tree. And we added extra element of craziness to that. The setting being the 70s, I always remember from my childhood, every summer holidays, the Monkees, which was 60s, but the Monkees being on. And that was such a part of my childhood. And they always have these wonderful moments where they have their pop video as part of the episode. So we thought we'd take a crazy moment at the end of the play when they're trying to spook Falstaff. We thought we'd take that moment and make it just a little bit crazier.
Fly on sinful fantasy.
The actors also had some free rein, naturally, to be able to create in the way that they wanted to, and some of whom came back with some brilliant ideas, and they were fantastically fun to put into the edit. The way monologues might be played, for example, in theatre and in the original version, could be dealt with in quite a different way in film. And so getting into the interior of Mr. Ford's car and travelling with him whilst he was having his inner monologue to himself was just a great new fresh way of being able to deliver that part of the story, and it gave the actors, I think, sort of a chance to feel like they were part of the creative process, even though we were hundreds of miles from each other.
Cuckold! Sorry, not you.
So after the actors had filmed their footage and they were happy with it, they sent me over all the files that they'd created.
Do I?
Heaven be my witness, you do.
Ford. Well said, brazen face.
And then I received just thousands of files. And part of then what I spent most of my time doing was just sorting through all of them. And I started to sort of collate all of that and put them into different folders.
And we're going.
Okay, so page 2, section B, take 5.
The Herculean task that Charlotte had in the editing suite. Suite wasn't even a suite, it was her bedroom and a laptop. In literally getting thousands of clips from the actors, which was brilliant, but literally thousands. Putting them into episode order, character order, scene order, before she could even begin to pull all these different takes, get the best from those takes, and pull them all together into a feasible scene. I really don't know how her brain managed it, let alone her computer. I think she's done an incredible job.
It's no exaggeration to say that I was given plenty of material to play with. Far better to have loads more than I need than not quite have enough and have to go back and refilm. We did have to refilm a few times just because when I'd get the footage from, say, 3 different actors in the same scene, they wouldn't quite have got the right eye line that I could then match up as successfully as I'd like. So occasionally we did have to pop back, and the actors did have to reshoot some bits, and sometimes this was over the course of a few months. So there were times when somebody in a panic would say to me, I've had a haircut, and I'd say, well, don't worry about it, nothing we can do now, and it's all part of the fun. So You need to see if you can spot those moments when you're watching the final versions, because they're quite funny.
And it really can't be underestimated, the job that everyone's done. And in particularly for Matt Eaton, the sound designer and composer for the show. Not only did he have to create for us an entire 70s soundscape, the different music, vibes, the kind of sitcom sound, but also the sound of something you might hear on the radio or have playing at a party. All his original work, which is incredible. But he also had the really, I imagine for a sound designer, kind of painful task of taking sound that has been recorded on varying qualities of phones in varying venues or spaces and try and put it together and make it sound like one scene. I mean, there were a few moments as lockdown changed, the rules changed, where two people would be allowed to be socially distanced in a garden or in an outdoor space. And sometimes we made use of that, but those moments were few and far between. And even so, it was still with zero sound equipment other than the microphone on the telephone. So you can imagine how limited that is. So what Matt has achieved is incredible, mind-blowing actually.
So some of the most challenging moments I found editing this were editing together scenes that required the full company to be together in one location.
The opening scene is set specifically around the time of the 1977 Queen's Silver Jubilee, and we are at Paige's house as they are hosting a party. It was important to us to show the characters living side by side in this tight-knit community.
And so I wanted to give a big sense that they were all together in the same living room.
The thing that I love most about Merry Wives is its sense of community. This is a group of different types of people living in a town. We get to see their friendships, their domestic problems. It's not an easy relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Ford.
I will be patient and find this out.
And then even between the Paiges and their daughter, at the end of the play, Anne does something, spoiler alert, that threatens the relationship between her and her parents.
Good, my mother, do not marry me to yond fool!
But that community pulls itself together. It forgives, it forgets, and it accepts, and it moves on. And I think that's why Falstaff just can't get the better of them, is that's where that community strength lies, is in kind of riding the storm and pulling back together and having a party and getting on with it.
With Merry Wives, there's such a sense of community.
To make sense of this, I had to get creative in the edit to figure out how I was going to put the actors all together into an interior setting.
So whilst obviously they were filming themselves individually in this, they didn't know who was standing to their left or right necessarily, and then I managed to combine them together so it looked like they were all part of the same backdrop. So
here I started with the backdrop and then added in layer by layer each actor. So there's Mrs. Ford, Mrs. Paige, and then we go to Mistress Quickly, followed by Mr. Page, and then Falstaff, and lastly Mr. Ford. And so when you play it back, they're all in the same room together.
We salute Her Most Glorious Majesty, the Queen!
The Queen! Cheers, everyone.
Queen.
in the final scenes where it all just goes completely crazy in a Windsor Park at night time, and we wanted to get a specific kind of spooky nighttime feel for it so that we could understand when we got into Falstaff's head where his imagination might go. Yet we also, on the practical side, needed to ask of all the actors to film themselves in a wood. Naturally, we didn't want them to film in a wood at night time. That would not be appropriate at all. So we asked them to film during the day, and what then I did in the edit was
I put all their footage through a colour board.
So, for example, here's our wonderful actor Alex Scott Fairley in his wood in Scotland. This is where he filmed his material, sent it all over to me, and then I'm adding lots of different sort of filters, enabling me to create something that could then exist in a nighttime setting.
Aye, by gar, and 'tis a boy! By gar, I'll raise old winter!
This is strange.
That's what's been so special about this experience, is actually people pulling together in isolation, going, I don't really know why I'm filming this, but I'm sure they'll do something fun with it, so I'll just do it. I don't have a prop, so I'm just gonna find something here and make it work, or I'm gonna have to rip my kitchen apart again to put up this green screen, and the tape will pull the paint off the wall again, but I'll do it. And yeah, there's been frustrations along the way, but a great deal of joy, and that's really what Merry Wives is about. Joy and community, and I think those are incredibly powerful themes at any time, but particularly this time. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.